Alrighty. There's probably a little pop to the microphone there. Hello and good morning. This is video 667. Happy to say I survived video 666. A couple weeks later, but the video today will be about naming or names. Uh, I was curious a little bit about how our names, when we change our names, if we change our names, sort of how that maybe ties into or tunnels into aspects of our personality, if it's possible. And what kind of brought this up is um, obviously I was born and my parents looked at my body and said, "It's a boy. We're going to give this boy a boy name." And they did. And I won't say what it is. It doesn't matter. But a very male masculine name for our society at the time. And I never identified with that name. It bothered me. It didn't bother me, but it bothered me. And I have in my mind, I can remember my parents and my grandparents saying that name, and it immediately, you know, causes a reaction. I developed a Pavlovian response to someone, an elder, calling my name. You know, call your name and attention. But as time went on, that name just didn't apply. It didn't have the same gravitas that it once did. And so I went by a nickname. It was a derivative of that name. And again, it doesn't matter what it is, just a derivative. And the derivative was gender neutral. Actually, the derivative was shorter of the other one, but it later became, um, I wanted to change my name to Sarah, okay? And I went by Sarah for a little bit back in college when I transitioned the first time, some 20 and a half years ago, 25 years ago. So at that time, I picked up the Sarah as the name that I went by. And golly, I wish Sarah would have flowered. I would have been, I was 21 years old. My body obviously was much younger. I was a lot thinner. Yada yada yada. We all know that story. We wish we transitioned when we were younger. Blah blah blah. But it didn't work out for Sarah. Sarah didn't have as much good of opportunity. Sarah didn't have money. Whatever, whatever. And I decided to detransition. I was on hormones. I was living as a woman. Sarah was full time. You know. And sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I would have let Sarah continue. Obviously I could have gone on food stamps. I could have um, whatever, applied for unemployment. And instead I decided that no, I needed to reel that back in and live the masquerade a little bit longer until I was better prepared. But I do wonder sometimes what would have happened if I had taken that branch of opportunity. And probably would have taken me longer to get to where I am today. But I would have been, transitioned at 25, would have been fully transitioned by that time. But anyway, you know, 2 years RLE, blah, 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 you know. But anyway, that wasn't the route that I took. And if you've ever played the game of life, you know that your little car, sometimes you go this way, sometimes you go that way, and that can have a huge impact down the road. So, uh, but anyway, I digress. So, it took me a minute to figure out where I'm going with that. So, we're talking about names, but when it came time for me at that time, second attempt transitioning in my 20s. What stuck was when I went to change my name. Very wise judge, and I've mentioned this before in a video. Um, he he suggested that instead I change. I went from the very masculine name to Robin, which was, as it turns out, sort of a derivative of the masculine name Robin. And Robin's a gender neutral name, like Terry. Terry could be man or a woman. Other names, that are gender non-specific. But I went with Robin. That was the next evolution. It was the next logical step to go from the masculine name to something gender neutral that kind of had roots in my old name. So this judge, very wise man. I had the intention to change my name, Robin, Karen, blah 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 blah. And the judge said to me, very wise judge, very surprised. I mean, very cool judge. He, as it turns out, he had broken his arm about a week before I went and saw him in court. And so instead of having court, I actually saw him in his chambers with his secretary, admin. And so it was a very informal conversation. It was like, going to someone's desk and you're sitting 3 feet away from a judge who's got your future in there, whatever. So it wasn't a courtroom and blah, 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 blah. It wasn't a whole lot of people. And he said to me, rather than change your name, he said, why don't you give this a trial run? And he said, I'm not trying to tell you no. He said, but I want you to think about this for a minute. Why don't we change your name to an initial? And you can be Robin K, your last name. He said, that way, it gives you the option to give this a trial run. He says, you can always go back later, change your name, fill it out, whatever. He said, right now it gives you sort of a pass. You get to try it out, see if you like it. He said, because, you may change your mind. I felt like that was pretty cool. What have you got to lose? Etc., etc. So that's kind of what I did. So when I was around 20, 23, 24, I changed my name from a masculine name to a gender neutral name and a middle initial, and then my last name. Changed my last name too, for other reasons. So I went from having a masculine name that I never really used, I never really identified with, but that I used the nickname for as my name when I would introduce myself to people and say, please call me blah blah blah. I went to Robin, a gender neutral name, and then my middle name as an initial. And that allowed me a sort of a baby step, if you will. And all was well and good. Fast forward to much, much later, about 20 years. And, I felt like after I transitioned and I had my surgery, kind of went through another bit of self-thought. And I said, I really need to express this. I want to go away from the gender neutral to a very specific gender by, a feminine name. I want to go by my middle name, which is Karen, obviously, or K, the letter K. Okay, shout back to Men in Black, J and K. And so, I started to, at my work, very progressive company at the time, I could change my preferred name. I changed it from Robin to Karen. And I let my immediate supervisor know that I would prefer to be called Karen. And they were very quick to change that, And in meetings and everything from that day forward, I went, by Karen. And I chose that because I felt like it was, putting my foot down on my identity as a woman, as a new woman, from this day forward, putting my Gandalf putting the staff down, you shall not pass. Putting my foot down and saying from this day forward will be Karen. Da, 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 da. And after my surgery, I sort of had, again, another period of adjustment, of what I would call hyper femininity that I hadn't had. We went back into makeup and dresses and, stereotypical feminine stuff. And I'm sorry if a binary perspective is not what you're used to. I'm definitely in the binary camp. I transitioned. I did all this work not to be a non-binary person. I'm binary and female. I've since sort of relaxed that and changed my perspective on it. But at the time, this was 2 years ago when I had my surgery, almost 3 years ago. So I had a very, I'm feminine, I'm a woman now, blah, blah, blah. I had another experience. And I really felt like, if someone was to address me as Karen, it reached into my psyche, into a point that hadn't really been explored before. For 40 some odd years, for 20 some odd years, I was dead named, what would become my dead name on all my documents and everything. And then I lived 20 years sort of on this free pass, and then, a couple years, I wanted to establish my feminine self. And so, as the people change, the people that knew you before you transitioned, obviously you go through a period of dead naming and, adjustment as they learn, hopefully quickly, to call you by a different name, etc., etc. But when you change your name and you go by a new name and you meet somebody new that you've never known before, you will be that person. I am Karen to a handful of people, and that's all they know me as. It's like when you change work. It's definitely a traumatic experience to lose your job or change your job over your transition. But in many ways, you get a clean slate. They'll never. You'll never be dead named because they don't know your other name. You're from that point on. Hopefully, if your past doesn't catch up to you, you are that other name. You are that other person. And so you're experiencing who you are in this new existence. And as time went on, that became less and less significant. And maybe I'm 48 years old, and like I said, for 20 some odd years I was one person, and then for 20 some odd years I was someone else. And obviously, like I said, when in my head I can replay my grandma, oh golly, my dad's mom especially, calling me by my dead name and just ramrod straight, yes ma'am. I've had that brainwashing still to this day. And even in conversation and in TV and whatnot, when I hear my dead name, I immediately sit bolt. Are they talking to me? It's an involuntary response. But what's happening lately in the last year, 6 months, the people that met me as Karen still call me Karen. I don't correct them. And, to a certain degree, um, to a certain degree, I could almost say that my friends call me Karen. People at work call me Robin. It's my name. It's on my driver's license. It's on my tax forms, etc., etc. And so, I immediately know when the phone rings, and if someone says, can I talk to Robin? Well, they get my general, you know, they get the general, mailbox. But when someone addresses me as Karen, then I know they're part of my inner circle of friends. It's past that outer shell of protectiveness, that wall that I have put up. It goes in it's the second line of defense. It's the inner self, you know. And so, you know, going forward, I later at work, after a good 6 months, and I used the excuse when I sold my house that I had to do so much. And it was true. In 3 months' time, I finally I closed on my house. I sold my house. My car died. I had to buy a new car, and I got involved in a new area at work. And it was so much paperwork, and Robin, my name, Robin, 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 Robin. I just kind of said, you know what, gonna go back to Robin, which is kind of where I'm at now. Uh, but the feminine name for me, which is Karen, for you, you may have, if it applies to you, you might have changed your name legally. You were perhaps Gary at one point, or Jonathan, who knows? Remington Steele, doesn't matter. And you changed your name into this other name. Now you're Sarah, you're Jessica, you're Jamie, you know, Rachel. You're a woman now. You're a different name. And to be addressed by that name, it allows for some exploration into some areas that may or may not have had time to develop. And a lot of that has to do with age and stage, where you are. Like I said, for 20 years I was someone else. I addressed as someone else. And then for the next 20, as I had my learner's permit, I was addressed as someone else. And now, I still am very comfortable in the Robin zone. But now when someone calls me Karen, it's like, how, what opportunity has Karen had to live? And I'm going to stop saying Karen because it's very specific to me, but I want to generalize it and say, what opportunities has the inner woman had to live and grow and experience, and get some real lifetime. And granted, as Shakespeare said, what's in a name? A rose is a rose is a rose, blah, 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 blah. But we take on this, ideally in transitioning, we're throwing off the false self. We're throwing off the false skin. We're throwing off the all of the masks that we wore in our lives to survive. The false masks, or the masks, I guess I should say, to get at our inner selves and to allow that inner self to blossom, which may be why the first 4 years are so fucked up. You never know. But it's had me thinking lately about, allowing that person to develop and live, you know, and um, at the same time, uh, I've absorbed that back into myself, you know, as I am a 48-year-old woman. Um, Within me is a a very young lady. Within me is a young woman who who probably is beyond puberty. The inner woman, the inner child, for lack of a better word. She never got the chance to grow up as a girl, and she never got a chance to have her mother show her how to put on makeup. She never got a talk, from her mother about what it was to be sexually active as a woman. There was a lot of things that little inner girl, my inner girl never played with dolls, you know. Um, there are a lot of things that, and again, my focus of my channel, because of who I am, is middle age. There are a lot of things that new inner woman, you know, we don't have that experience. You know, we never got to be a cheerleader in high school. We never got to date someone in high school. We never had the child first kiss. You know, not to say that we won't one day, as life, as opportunity and things happen. We definitely have the potential to. But what caught me a little bit is, I have some people that are significant and potential life partners, you know, and they call me Karen. And so it it drills past that. It digs deep. I've got some inner work to do. I've got some inner work to do. And I think whether you're trans or not, people in general, uh, you know, can have the rug pulled out from under them at any age. You know, you probably at any age have the opportunity to get your shit together or whatnot. And some of the people that I'm friends with on Facebook, um, each of us has our own story that we probably don't know or whatnot. But some people seem like you know they get married, they have kids or not, and they're got their house, and it's their biggest worry is, will the store have the wine that they like to drink? And you're like, I don't have those kinds of problems. From a trans point of view, you're in many ways redefining yourself, or allowing your inner self, your authentic self. Haven't used that word in a while. You're allowing your authentic self the option to grow, develop, and explore, and find out what you really like and what you don't like. And I'm not talking about whether you like asparagus versus Brussels sprouts. I'm talking about sexuality. Do you like having sex? Do you like having sex with a man? Do you like having sex with a woman? As a woman, what are you attracted to? What are you sexually attracted to? And I've had someone reach out to me lately who is recently just started on the transitioning path, and they pursued me for a little bit, but they pursued me as a woman, but as a man would pursue me. Which I was interested in as a man, pursuing me. I want to be pursued. I want to be chased. I want to be wooed. Woo me. Woo me. All right, woo. Woo. No, not that kind of woo. I want that experience. I want to be wooed. I want to be pursued, as a woman by a man. That's my goal. And so it took me a while. It took me a couple of days to kind of process through it and say, no, I'm not a lesbian. I'm not. You know, I was thankful for the interest, but um, I'm not a lesbian. You know, which is kind of a shame because in many respects, I think trans women, the only way we're going to get his attention is if we're with another trans woman or we're with a woman. I've not met a trans woman who's with a man after they transition. You know, it's kind of sad in a way, but that's a whole other video, and that's my own experience. That doesn't mean for everybody. I can only tell you that you know I can think of the number of post transition relationships on a no fingered hand that I know of. Sadly, usually it's someone who knew each other before their transition, or it's a lesbian couple. You know, and my own experience in my situation, my wife divorced me because she was a lesbian. She was looking for a woman. I guess not me. But I have to laugh at that. Um, and I recently caught up with her and kind of said to her, if you had just waited 4 years. But again, I'm not into the lesbian thing. So, and I'm not into other trans women either. Oof, no, no, no. I want to be pursued, and I'm waiting for that. And it may never happen. It may never happen. I may have to be content with my Harry Sullivan, the cat who's wisely taking a nap over there. But anyway, this video, like I said, I wanted to talk about names and my own, like I said, recent experience. Um, you know, when someone addresses me as Karen, the way I have set up this system, my own head, they are addressing the feminine, the total feminine, which I can't define. I don't know. I'm trying to figure that out. And I'm trying to figure out what I want and what I want to do. I transitioned, and then after I transitioned, I was so focused on having surgery, I totally did not see or participate in other things. I was totally focused on my surgery. And if you can go back and watch the videos, I was told I couldn't have the surgery because I was too fat. And so then I focused on losing weight. That was my focus. It wasn't on anything else. And then I had my surgery. And after I had my surgery, and I had reached that goal, and I started to look around me at other pieces of my life and things that I didn't like, that became the focus. And so, in many respects, the female me, the post-op me, hasn't lived life yet. I've been doing other things. Which John Lennon said, you live life by doing other things. Well, fuck you too. He killed himself. Or did he get shot? I think he got shot. He got shot. But, the feminine, the Karen has not had a chance yet to flex her muscles, to flex herself, and to stretch herself out. And maybe that's the next part of my journey as I go in. Like I said, I'm 48, and maybe that's going to be the next part of my journey, is to discover what I want to do. As a post-op trans woman. Like I said, my focus was on other things to get me through this process, and that's where I am today. I'm very thankful to have a job again that has health insurance and retirement and everything else. And so, you know, for the next 20 years, this is where I'm at until I retire. And should I be so lucky to retire and live that long, you know, I'm entering a new chapter of my life, a new phase. That's where I'm at now. So anyway, I didn't mean to run so long. 30 minutes is a long time. If you're on the treadmill, congratulations. Um, yeah, I've got some other things going on. I've got to get moving on, and exercise is one of them. Facebook loves to send me pictures of myself from 2 years ago, 3 years ago, when I had lost so much weight. And I weighed myself 2 days ago, and I don't mind sharing with you, I'm 357 pounds. Okay, I am the heaviest I have ever been. Um, Before I transitioned, I weighed 100, 310, 315, maybe 320. After HRT, I weighed 325, 330. And now I'm 15 to 20 pounds over that. I am the heaviest I have ever been in my life. I am the most morbidly obese I have ever been in my life. And I'm at the point now I'm kind of tired of it, and I'm making some changes. I'm exercising more, I'm eating better. And part of having a job again is not only getting access to health insurance, but also having the money to buy food. Ramen is a quarter, a meal for a quarter. You could eat 4 meals for $1, and it's extremely unhealthy over the long term. But it's what you do what you got to do to survive. And now I'm in a position where I can buy fresh vegetables. I can buy fruit and consume them. You know, and definitely my company won't allow me to be fat. I mean, it's not fat shaming, but it is fat shaming to a degree, but not overtly. It's under the guise of, wouldn't you be happier if you were thinner? Wouldn't you be better if you were thinner? You know, those kinds of things. Um, which, in light of current events in the United States, it doesn't matter a hill of shit. We're dealing with racism and Black Lives Matter, and other things right now. That's by no means is a crazy old fat fuck lady like myself, you know, but that's where we're at. So, all right, well, I got stuff to do today. I just wanted to make a note. I haven't made a video in a while, and just wanted to check in. And this process continues. I have people that I see on Facebook, and like I said, we don't know. Facebook is, people portray themselves, but like I said, there's some people in my Facebook chat who just, their lives seem so perfect, and maybe it's just a matter of that's what they choose to show. I don't know, but like I said, their biggest worry is, will the store have my favorite wine? I want to drink blah 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 tonight. And you're like, I'm trying to make rent. you know, but that's life. That's just the way it goes. So, all right, till next time, my friends. Good luck to you. I honestly wish you the best of luck in becoming your authentic self as you define it. And until next time, we'll see you. All right. Bye bye. And good luck. We all need it.